I don't have to do this. Mine is a different system. All right. Okay. Very sorry about this. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, deeply regret this. We are having extraordinary technical problems here. We have some attendees who probably will join in. We see only a few here. Not sure. Okay. Anish, okay, yeah, okay. They are all on. Yeah, they're coming on. Thank you. So I'm going to move on with this. Talking of appearance, appearance is more about body and style. Yeah, like we said, appearance is also key, not something we can disregard. So it's the first impression people make of you based on your image, your dressing, your mannerisms, interpersonal behavior. We are going to show you some more pictures of people you can probably recognize very well. So what happens is really when we see a person for the first time, we tune in based on what we really see. We tune in based on, you may say these are superficial pieces, but the fact is perceptions is what the world runs on. It's perception, it's not reality. Yeah. So, okay. Look at some of these pictures. I'm sure there is one man here which you definitely do recognize, and he is the CEO of Aricent.
That's Frank Kern.
Frank Kern, yeah. That's right. And if you look at all these men, what you will, I want you to focus on their dressing, the uniqueness in each one of their dressing. So if you look closely, you can actually point what that uniqueness is in each one of them. Some have less hair, but they keep it like that. Some have a beard. Shiv Nadar always supports a beard. If you look at Narendra Modi, he will always mostly be dressed in an Indian traditional attire. You look at many other gentlemen here, sometimes just the spectacles becomes a sort of a trademark of somebody. Yeah. Sometimes it's just the color of the tie. Ratan Tata, if you look at Ratan Tata, always has a blue and a blue tie, white shirt mostly. So what does this say about you? Now, if you look at these guys, and I would encourage you to generally have a look and see who you relate with. There's a reason for that. Whoever you relate more with is somebody you also then connect with, is somebody you could probably model. The fact is not that. The point here is, why don't you relate with X and why do you relate with Y? It's important to know this, the biases also that creep in makes a huge impact on how we then come across. How accepting are we? Yeah.
So Deep, I have a question over here for you. So I do a lot of pictures over here and I see people in different attires. Somebody is wearing a suit, somebody is wearing his jeans, somebody is only wearing a shirt and a normal trouser. So is there a standardized way of appearing in front of your clients, your stakeholders? So what is it that somebody has a different way of styling and the others do?
Sure, Vishal. Yeah. So what happens is, if you all do some more research, colors are also symbolic. So for example, gray symbolizes sort of gravitas. Black symbolizes power. So lighter shades symbolize many other things. So to know, how do you want to be perceived? The first question, how do you want to be perceived? Dress as per how you want to be perceived, is what I would say. So worth noting, ladies and gentlemen, that how we dress is also a result of our environment. For example, we, I think, talked about it. We don't want to talk too much about it. Context makes a huge, is a huge contributor. So a day in the office, probably Fridays, people say, okay, Fridays are informal days. Let's all come in jeans. The way you dress also affects the environment. So can you visualize that one day, all of you, all the employees of Aricent, all of them, come in a suit and a tie, all of them, what would Aerosint look like? So if somebody like me or an outsider walked into Aerosint, everybody in suits, visualize what would Aerosint look like? What is the impression that Aerosint would have? That's how powerful appearance can be. It creates impressions. Yeah. So here is it. I'd invite you to experiment. Those of you who want to experiment, try doing something very different for the following week. So Monday, when you come to the office for the entire week, try and dress in one manner. I would say dress in a manner which you don't usually dress. So for example, if you come in informal casuals or smart casuals, maybe you want to wear formals. For a week, wear something formal. Maybe you want to wear a French cuff shirt, and for ladies, a dress maybe, or sari, what have you. What I'm saying is experiment and find out how you feel in the new attire, in the new way of dressing, and how others respond to you. It's worth experimenting. So I really want to reinforce this point. Yeah.
Okay. I think that would be interesting to
experiment. Very interesting. Track, yeah? So yeah, we've done these things before, even with some of my coaches I work with. We really enable them to encourage them to experiment. Experiment and you will know, wow, okay, what works? What was the insight you got through just doing this little simple experiment? Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Wow. Okay, we have some very gorgeous ladies here, achievers as well in their own right. Many of them are familiar. We have Indra Nui, we have Mrs.
Chanda
Obama, Chanda Kochar here. We have others. Worth noting, they all have something unique. Indra Nui mostly will have a scarf around her neck. Miss Kochar will always be donning a sari, right? Look at the colors. So even the spectacles, even the hairdo, these are things that leave an impression. Question for you all. What is it that you have? What is that one thing which is unique about you, which leaves an impression and mostly a high recall value? So it's about recall, yeah? Okay. All right, so we move on to engagement. Engagement is one of the key dimensions as gravitas was. Those of you who remember what we did in gravitas, the 4 components, engagement is also very important. So here's the thing. I'd like you all to use the chat feature that you have. When we talk of engagement, yeah, give me some examples of engagement. So it's open to you all. Let's hear from you all. What are some examples of engagement? Yeah. So we are here, we are just, wanting some responses. So when you think of engagement, what are some of the examples that come to your mind? Or maybe an analogy or something.
Can you give some examples so that the participants are able to understand what you're saying?
Sure. So engagement is occupying and attracting somebody's attention. So attracting somebody's attention is engagement. Okay, so we don't have any responses. Let's move on to share more about what engagement is. Okay, so engagement pretty much is, like I said, to occupy or attract someone's interest and attention. Okay, let me ask you another question here. We're going to stop again. What are various ways that people do or can attract another's attention? Or what are the various ways you have to get someone's attention? Okay, I'm opening up the chat again. Ladies and gentlemen, please use your chat. Please tell us what are the various ways one can engage or attract or occupy somebody's attention. I know of many ways, Vishal.
Yeah. So if we look at the executive presence model as well, the gravitas that we have done, appearance, I think there are a lot of elements which come from there as well. How do you attract anybody's attention?
Sure.
And it also depends on the context in which you are right now.
Sure. So
We have
okay, great. Let's see. Greeting. Okay, Rajendra, thank you very much. The way we greet, initial conversation, setting the context. These are great. Okay, Javed, greet people. Thanks, Javed. The way we greet people is important. Yes, that's how we engage people. Initial conversation. Who else? There's so many ways. These are very good ways that you all are highlighting here. Okay, so let's move on. So here I'm going to share with you one of the most powerful models of a conversation. This is called the anatomy of any conversation. Make a note of that. Anatomy of a conversation. We definitely as coaches some of us use the advanced communication model very, very effectively and consciously. I have to admit, I have to warn you, initially this may sound a little over the top. What I mean is little unrealistic, only initially. Once you practice this model, what I'm going to share with you, you would probably not want to drop it. You would probably, this is my informed guess from all the experience, that you'd want to use this model consciously till it becomes an unconscious part of you, and you'll probably engage mostly people in such a frame. Yeah. So let's go through this advanced communication model step by step. So the model clearly says there are three components: engaging somebody, then advancing in the conversation, then disengaging. Every conversation has three parts. Yeah. Let's talk of engaging. In engaging, really, you're clarifying the purpose of the meeting or purpose of a conversation. You're actually articulating it. Then you're stating some benefits. You know, what are the outcomes for you through this conversation or through a meeting? What are the benefits for the other? Always ask, okay, so what are some benefits that you would like to take away today? What is it you really want to focus on? Now, these are very important questions. Yeah. And this is this is very relevant to all of you. It's relevant to all of us. Going for a client meeting or team meeting, for example, or just meeting your manager or meeting a subordinate one-on-one. This frame works in all contexts. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you give an example here so that the participants are able to understand it in their context?
Tell me more.
So let's take a situation wherein you're meeting a new client, you're meeting a prospect for the first time, and you want to introduce about your organization. What is the best way to do this using this particular model?
So I'll come to that. Anisha, we have 16 participants here. I can quickly tell you, but Anisha, you wanted the attendance. So I can quickly tell you, we have Ashok, we have Atul, we have Bipul, we have Chitra, we have Gagan, we have Javed, of course, Limin, Pooja, we have Rajendra, we have Sanjay. So these are the attendees that we have. Okay, does that help, Anisha? All right, yeah. Yeah, Vishal, what was your question?
Yeah, so Deep, I was trying to understand through an example wherein, let's say, a person is introducing the organization to a prospective client.
Yeah.
How do you use this particular model over here?
It's very simple. This is exactly how you use it, Vishal. If you were to take that case, you'd say, okay, the purpose of us coming is X, Y, Z. Some of the benefits, what are the benefits for you in this meeting? That's the key piece. How many of us really ask the benefits after the purpose? Once the purpose is set, we are ready to roll. We go into advancing stage, right? Benefits, table those benefits. Make sure when you're in advancing stage, keep coming back to the benefits. Are they being met? Yeah. And then the opening move. Let's go to advancing. Advancing is the key stage. When I say key, that's the part which is long. It's an elongated part. I will only take you through the relating, questioning, and listening part of it. We will leave the reframing and probably checking assumptions. We'll pick up contributing. Let's just focus on the four components of advancing. Advancing is, first, how do you relate to the other person? How do you empathize with the other person? How do you understand? That's relating. For example, if you were to come to me, if there's a person who's coming to me with an issue or a problem, could be a client, before I jump into solving or coming up with solutions, I must be able to relate to the problem. I must be able to make the other person believe and feel that I can relate to what is being said. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that happens when you question, you paraphrase, you question. Okay. Yeah.
So are you trying to say that empathy is one of the important components which is being used by an individual?
I would not say only empathy. I would also say stepping into the other person's context, understanding it from the second position. So we call it second positioning ourselves. Yeah. Then we talk of questioning. I would say all of us here, all of us in this room, in this webinar, believe with all your experience that questioning is one of the key skills. Yet, how much of questioning do we use? So the question for yourselves here, all of you, if I were to ask you, do you do in your day-to-day work life, just reflect, do you do more of telling, selling, asking, or just pure collaborating? So telling, selling, asking is the key pieces. I'm okay for you all to generally be honest with yourselves and shoot your answers. What do you really do? Or listening, or maybe listening, telling, selling, asking, listening. Yeah. But these are key pieces. The idea here is to ask and then tell. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we have. Let me have a look. Collaborating, Sanjay. Thank you very much. Collaborating actually entails listening and asking and selling, all of that. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Let's move on. The next is listening and attending. What do you mean by attending? Normally, we've noticed, let's be honest to ourselves, we normally listen, we feel we are listening, but you know what? We are really waiting for our turn to talk. We are really waiting for a chance. So we're not listening. There's so much noise happening in our minds, yeah? What I'm highlighting here is attending. So are you present? Yeah, are you present? That's key. Or is there a lot playing in your mind? Then we sort of check for assumptions. While the conversations are on, always be mindful of what are the assumptions being made by both the parties. We make a lot of assumptions as well. Others make a lot of assumptions as well. I'll give you a recent example. Okay, I want to share an anecdote. This happened yesterday. I was in a coaching session with a lady. This is one of the largest banking wealth managers globally. This was a Zoom remote session. The piece the lady brought to the table was, one of the issues in the session was, she wanted a little guidance and perspective on an issue she's facing in the office. The issue was, this lady belongs, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of risk, how risk is managed in these banking. So there's a whole risk and change organization in the banking and risk management or wealth management industry. This lady manages the entire change process, which includes business and IT. She's somebody who is in between them to manage change processes, to continue to evaluate, continuous improvement. Now, her issue was she was finding it very difficult to convince two people in the organization to buy in to what she was proposing. The top management bought into it. The managers bought into it. These two were key stakeholders. They're not buying into it. The lady goes, you know what? I know the reason why they're not buying into this, because they believe I'm not from business, so I don't understand business. That, I said to her, could that be an assumption? There you go. Without knowing, she probably thought because she's not from the business side, they're pushing back. Now, if that was an assumption, obviously, if the lady believed that to be true, she would be hesitant and reticent to push back because she's already in the defensive, believing they believe that. That's what I call assumptions. Clarify your assumptions. What are you assuming here? Yeah. Let's move on. So contributing is, again, this is where contributions happen in the advancing stage. So I'm going to sum up the advancing stage for you. We relate, we question, we check for assumptions, we listen, we attend, and we contribute. This is all about the advancement. This is all that's happening in the advancing stage of a conversation. Then we disengage. always disengage in a conversation, which is concluding a conversation. Most of you perhaps do this, yet doing it consciously and also spending time on it is key. Summarizing what has been really said, what has been agreed upon, confirming commitments, always confirm commitments. Okay, so I heard you commit to this. Is that a confirmation? No, 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 no. You heard wrong. I did not say that. How many times does this happen? It doesn't happen. Because of elongated conversations, we jump our time, we jump allocated time, then we are running and we wrap up meetings in a hurry. That's what derails later. That's what causes inefficiencies, if you like, yeah? And checking for alignment. So these are the three things. Engaging, just to sum it up for you all, engaging is set the stage, advancing is get into the groove, and disengaging is rubber hits the road. That's where we go and do what has been agreed upon. Yeah.
So I think, Deep, this is a very powerful model.
Yeah.
That is being used that can be used in fact all the contexts and people coming from different functions.
Sure.
In different organizations. And
sure.
It actually sets a very positive, it creates a very positive impact in front of your stakeholders when you're using this particular model.
Of course. So like I said, I'll be honest about it. People who hear of this the first time, they have to use it consciously.
Yeah.
So like anything in life, when you learn cycling for the first time, you were very conscious about it. And there was a day you would probably not even hold the handle and just cycle away, right? So consciousness is key, yeah? So yes, we have someone here. Can you elaborate more on checking for alignment? Okay, Gagan, we sure can. So when we talk of checking for alignment, there are two places we check for alignment. We check for alignment when we are engaging, and we check for alignment when we are disengaging. This is what we do in both the scenarios. Once we have clarified the purpose, we have checked the benefits, that's when we say, okay, is this all? What else? Are all aligned? Because, for example, the purpose may be very different. So the understanding of the purpose of a meeting or conversation could be different to both parties unless clarified. And once both the parties have clarified the purpose, there could be a question, okay, so today I thought we are not going to be discussing X, yet you are bringing that as one of the purpose. So before you move to advancing, make sure you've aligned. Make sure that yes, if you're going with it, then agree that we'll go with it, take it to the next stage of advancement. Typically for disengaging, when we're summarizing, we're getting confirmations of commitments, timelines, what have you. Always check, always stop and say, okay, anything else? Is this really clear? Any doubts, any comments, anything that has not been answered, give people that time. Because trust me, truth be told, with all the wisdom that I'm bringing to the table because of the experience, the 9 out of 10 times, there is a majority of people who go away from a meeting not thoroughly satisfied. There are many questions that have not been answered. That's checking for alignment. Yeah? Does that make sense? So that's the response to your question. Yeah? Shall we move on?
Sure.
Okay. There is somebody on chat. Okay. Can you elaborate more on checking? Yes, thank you. No problem. Thank you, Gagan, for bringing that up. So engagement, components for impact. Something I find very, very sort of, this is the most validated research in terms of communication. What this really tells us is the impact of words, tonality, and body language in a communication piece. All three are components of communication, yet some of them are missing. They are missing depending on the context. What that means is, if I'm on the telephone, what you can see is nothing. What you can hear is my tonality and the words I'm using and tonality. So what it tells us is that 38 plus 7, which is 45% of communication is happening. There is 55 that is missing. That's what it means. So this tells us the key learning here is how important then it becomes for us if we are not on video, or we are not face to face, where others cannot see our physiology, our expressions, our body language. How important it is to make up with words and tonality and give the 100%.
I think a simple experiment that can be done right now as
Yeah.
well is if we switch off our video,
Okay.
what is the impact that we create at that point of time to the participants?
Absolutely.
Without the video? And with
Absolutely.
the video, of course, I think they can, as of now, they can visualize as well. What is it?
Yes.
What is the difference it's going to make?
Yeah. So that means for us, I will have to then give more weighting to words and tonality, because you're only seeing 45% of the communication. Yeah. So another key point is this could be counterintuitive, which is if all of it is present and your body language is not the best that day, maybe you're not feeling very good within, maybe you're feeling a little ill, or maybe you're not 100%, maybe you're not excited, maybe you're low on energy. Do you know you're carrying that with your body language? Now, in those cases, we don't want 100%. We're better off that you don't show up and just call. So that's the counterintuitive part. It works both ways. It can be very advantageous to have your whole persona, whole self. And in certain context, I rather say, mate, don't show up. Just talk on the phone. You'll be better off. You have a good tone. You have very good articulation. You're just not looking good in that day because for whatever reason, you're not energetic. Yeah. Or what it also says to you is, if you're taking your whole self, then make sure all the three components are spot on. Then make sure even in your appearance, you are really impacting. Because if all are present, then body language is core. That's 55%. Yeah. So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I also want to understand one thing over here is that most of the meetings, if you talk about meetings happening across the globe, we don't have a video conferencing facility which is available.
Yeah.
And people, they focus on, they only have to focus on words and tonality. So when you're doing a conference over the phone, how do you think these percentages can be increased for the participants?
So they can't be increased. Okay. So the fact is the percentage don't increase. Anyways, 38% and 7% is words in any communication. 38% is tonality. That doesn't change. What changes is you don't have 55%. It's missing. So when I say make up, you have to be so articulated then, and not to show your emotions.
Okay.
Because people can't see. So tonality has to be in check. Happy tone, because the moment it seems like it's sad, people can get images of you, which may not be true because they can't see.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's how it works. Yeah. Okay. This is a very good tool to, some of you perhaps know about this tool, because this is not something that's sort of uncommon yet. There are various sort of variances sort of thing. So a star model can be used for feedback, but here we are trying to use it for articulation. So situation, if you were to, what articulation really is, saying clearly in few words what otherwise would take you a long time to say, and with many words. That's what articulation is. To articulate with key words, use them in short sentences, and that's the framework we have for you here. So if you're talking about a situation, normally if you're talking about a holiday, or if you're talking about a client meeting gone well, a client meeting gone wrong, or if you're talking about escalations, what have you in your context. When you're explaining this to your bosses, or to your team, or to your peer group, keep this model in mind, and you will be amazed at the time you take, and the message that goes through is much sharper, much more impactful. So S is the situation. Situation is just to talk of, what the situation was, that we were with our client, who was present. These were the people who were present. It happened in the second half of today, or it happened at the end of the month, or it happened on the 20th of April, what have you. Yeah. Where, who, and when. That's it. Then you go straight away to the next. What was the task really? What was happening? So task, or what was the theme? What was the topic that was being discussed? So, this was what was being discussed. This is why it was being discussed. What and why. Great. The action, and you know what? This is the action we took, stating what did you do to resolve the problem, stating how did you resolve. So what have you, just action, and as a result, XYZ happened. This is a very powerful tool. I would encourage that you all use it. I would encourage all of you use it. Try it, experiment with it. Very clearly, talk of the situation, talk of the theme that was happening, what was the action taken, result. What would otherwise take about 20 to 25 minutes to even convey, probably take you 5 to 7 minutes. This has been tried and tested, and I'm sharing this out of all the experience when people start using this tool. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on.
Yeah.
This is, we go through this very quickly. Entrance. Entrance is really about what are you trying to do. You see the two images here. You have a warrior on a horse, a lot of energy, a lot of aggression, I think. Body language is very confident. Then you have this man who is sneaking into the class because he's rather late for the class, so now they got to sneak in. So entrance is about how do you enter the stage, be it your office, be it your client meeting, be it a conference, be it a town hall, be it a appraisal meeting. How do you enter? That's a key piece. Do you enter, look into each one's eyes, shake hands, look at each one, sit down confidently, or are you shy? Are you shy? Now, I'll tell you, this adds so much to presence. Remember, we are talking about presence, gravitas, appearance, engagement, and now the entrance. So it doesn't need to be in that order, because actually the order is reverse. It's the appearance first, then it's the entrance, then you engage, and people get to know the gravitas that you demonstrated during engagement. Yeah. So that's how it really works. Make sense? Yeah. So entrance is really, how do you enter? I would encourage you all to be conscious. You're from Monday, from next week, or you could start anytime. Just be a little conscious of how you enter. What that means is reflect later. How else could you have entered? What's happening to you in various contexts? What makes you enter with confidence? What are these events and contexts that make you enter with your head down or with your shoulders drooping? You got to reflect and think, what are these events? That tells you a lot about your own self. Yeah. And that adds to concreteness and congruence, which some of you would remember we talked about in the last webinar. Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So I think entrance also closely relates to engagement as well. So if, for example, if somebody is entering a conference room, how do you even open the door? Yeah. What do you say when you just enter the conference room? So
absolutely.
It's all interlinked to each other.
Absolutely. One is you open the door and, you just try and grab a seat. Or one is you enter the door, you pause for a minute, you look around the room, and you nicely go, take a seat. Now there's a huge difference in both the scenarios, right? Both the approaches. Okay. So worth experimenting. Yeah. Okay, now networking. This is probably the core part of today's webinar. We wanted to really just cover the executive presence part, close it, pick the 3 dimensions. We've done that. Now comes the networking. I had started off by saying that how important is presence, the entire presence, from gravitas to appearance to what we bring to the table, engagement. Now, so how many of you, here's a question for you all, I'd like you to answer on chat. How many of you really believe, you could just say yes, that the presence is a huge contributor to networking? So how many of you really believe that? And I'm happy to, for people to say who don't believe it is so important. I'm happy for that, so we could discuss and talk about it. On the video, I think we should keep the video on.
So participants, you can use the chat section to respond to Deep's question. How many of we think that presence is very important for networking?
Just raise your hand. Those who think it's important, just raise your hand. That's good enough. We're happy to listen to other views as well. Okay, so I learned.
So we have people raising hands.
You do? Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So we had this saying. Something I learned. When there is silence, it means yes. Okay. So let's move on.
Okay. So we have a quiz for people in the next slide.
All right. So polling happening. Wait. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on networking. Okay, all yours, ladies and gentlemen. How would you rate yourself? So there is
5 questions.
5 questions. We go one by one.
So the first question is, I understand what networking means. You have to choose one of the options starting from 1 as the lowest to 10 as the highest. The second question is, I know how useful is networking for my growth.
Again, the same. So let's go step by step.
Sure. So
they won't be able to see the whole.
No, they can
See the whole.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
So the third question is, I have strong networking skills. The fourth is, I use my skills appropriately in my professional, personal, and family space.
So Vishal, let's have a look. What are people generally saying? So very interesting. Let's go. Let's scroll for me.
Yeah. So this is, I dedicate sufficient time for networking.
Yeah.
So we have a few people who have responded to this. Let's just wait for 10 more seconds.
Let's wait for 10 seconds.
And we'll end the poll.
Oh yes, they're coming. Wait a sec. So they're coming in. Okay. While you all are still responding, we are having a look at some of the very interesting things here. I understand what networking means. Okay. Okay, so this is ours. So 29% feed. Okay, that's it. Good. I know useful. Okay. All right. Okay. This is the fascinating part always.
And the poll.
Okay. So any more votes? Okay. Let's send the poll and share the results with you all. Share results. Brilliant. Okay. So this is what we have for question number 1. 29% understand what networking means. So 29, I mean, the majority are at 6 or 7 who understand what networking means. Some understand at 9, 1 or 2. Okay, let's move on. Yes, there is, we will come to whoever's on chat. We'll come to you. Give us a minute. Okay, I know how useful is networking for my growth. Okay, so what we have here is, while we all understand, we also know how useful it is, yet do we really have those networking skills, or do we use those appropriately in professional and family
or in fact, do we really want to network?
Do you really want to network? Yeah. So majority, of course, are lower in these areas, and which is good. It's good to get an honest view. So this is where we are. Let me check. Okay, hi, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see somebody
like this. Yeah. Hi, sorry, but we had a customer emergency and joined a few minutes ago. All right. Marco. Okay. Marco, that is okay. Yes, it's unfortunate, but I guess we just move on. Thank you for coming on anyways. Okay. And trust that the emergency situation was resolved to your satisfaction and to the other party's satisfaction. Yeah. Okay. It would be awesome if this was a conflict management webinar, yeah, Marco, for your sake. Okay, that would have been ironical, actually. Okay, so you've not missed much. All right, let's move on. What is a network and networking?
Yeah, so we have two textbook definitions over here. Though we will understand about network and networking in more deeper details when we start asking certain questions, which are a result of the poll results that we have just seen. A textbook definition of networking, which says that a network is a set of relationships that you depend on, 1, to get things done, 2, to develop professionally, get ahead in your career, and to solve problems efficiently. The second definition, which is one of the latest definitions that we picked up, and it's based on the current research which happened across the globe at more than 10,000 leaders, which says that networking by behaviors it defines networking by behaviors that are aimed at building, maintaining, and using informal relationships to maximize common advantages.
Okay, great. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think more than the definitions, it's the keywords. Let's pick the keywords here. Keywords here are develop professionally, get ahead in your career is one. I think the other keywords here are building, maintaining, and using relationships and maximizing common advantages. Maximizing common advantages is really, really key. So networking is not one way. It's a two-way process. People would want to know you. If you approach somebody and they embrace you, they very quickly want to meet up with you, tells you that yes, you have a lot to offer. But this has to happen before they even accept or take it forward with you. So that means there is a lot of things today that need to happen, especially because of social media. Your profile on LinkedIn, what does it say? Because in today's day and age, networking is not what it used to be, more than 2 decades ago. Networking is more robust these days, more dynamic. Networking is also agile these days because of the accessibility and reach that we have. Yeah. So networking is a whole different complexion. Let's talk a little about it, Vishal. I think today what we want to really highlight is networking is complex because there are so many people out there. There's such a crowd which can be seen all over. So if you look at LinkedIn, if you look at Facebook, and there's so many other portals now to network, there are group discussions. There are at least 100 to 200 types of discussions, types of groups, more than that. And there's so many opportunities to meet, to impress people. There's so many opportunities to contact people. So the opportunities to network in today's day and age are probably the most that mankind has ever experienced. Yeah. So today, anybody sitting in Sydney or in California or New York, what have you, or London, can or does have access to your profile. But then when you know there is an opportunity, how many of us really do a lot of writing articles, participating in discussions? So to be visible is so easy these days. Though there is a crowd, you have people writing a lot of articles, a lot of blogs. The fact is, even commenting on those blogs make you visible. Yeah. Just wanted to highlight that how the complexion has changed. Yeah. So typical questions are: why do we network? Who do we network with? How do we network? And where do we network? So what have you coming up, Vishal? You looking at you got another poll or something?
No, it's not a poll.
Yeah.
So we are going to deep dive into these questions now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first question is the most important for all the participants. And it's in fact one of the most important questions which has been proved by, in fact, most of the business schools who have been doing a lot of research on networking as well.
So I think business schools aside, personally, I would say today, 90% of my success, 95% of opportunities I've created are because of networking. I can very confidently say that. Where I am today, even if I get my next client for the organization, mostly it's through networking. I've noticed that. We attract a lot of people in our organization, again, mostly due to networking. So I can understand the value of networking, and I'm sure a lot of you out there understand the value because that's what the poll said. Understand the value, but how many get to do it? How many of us consciously have leveraged that? Yeah. So who do we network with is the next. Who? We have our personal friends. We have people in the office, which we are going to come to. What we are saying is that we're going to cover these 4 areas moving forward. Yeah. So why should you network? There are many possible reasons why people network. There are many reasons. It depends on the context. It depends on where you are in life, and it depends what you want. But remember the definition. It should be a common advantage. to the other as well. Opening up to superior possibilities is one. Gaining valuable information and connections is another reason why people network. Building your brand is another reason. Helps you build trust and confidence in others. That's a reason, right? So this is a very interesting image we have here. Sometimes when people reach out to us or we reach out to people, many a times this is probably the first thing that comes to our mind mostly. And this is also after a lot of research. Why does this happen? Why do we go away and our internal dialogue is, I hate people, they keep coming on, they want to get connected. They always want some sort of, something from us. They want a favor. Okay, great. That's how it has evolved over time. That's the perception of networking in many areas, but that's not what we call networking, yeah, where you want a person to go away. So networking is not about pushing. It's not. Networking is not a transaction. It's not a transaction. We will talk more about it and we'll demonstrate more about it as we go. So there's this whole misnomer sometimes of networking or how it's perceived, but that's because what we feel about it and how we do it is important. How we network is very important, yeah? Okay, so moving on. So I think, Vishal, this is the networking ecosystem. I'll just very shortly, briefly tell you, and then Vishal is going to take you through this. Of course, we're going to be sharing these slides. That's a different piece that probably you all know. Networking ecosystem is about your entire ecosystem of where, how, what can you network on. So Vishal is going to take you through this grid. It's probably a very validated grid. It's a great tool. Over to Vishal.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So this particular grid that you are looking at right now, it is a model which has been developed by Harvard Business School along with NCR, and there was a research which was done by professors across the globe. Now, what this grid talks about, it talks about an ecosystem in which each one of us is operating right now. And there are 3 dimensions to this ecosystem. When we talk about networking, there are basically 3 types of networks that we rely on. One is operational, the second is personal, and third is strategic. When we talk about operational networks, what we are trying to say is this network specifically talks about our workplace, the stakeholders that we work with. So it talks about our supervisor, it talks about our peers, it talks about our colleagues, it talks about our people reporting into us. It also talks about our clients, customers, prospects. So that's an operational network that each one of us has, and we rely on this network in order to make sure that the work that we are supposed to do, we do. The personal network is something which has a little longer duration per se, because it spans all across our life, which talks about people who are a part of our family and our extended families. It also includes our friends, our ex-colleagues, and people who we know in other organizations as well because of being friends. So operational and personal network basically talks about a network which by default exists for us. The strategic network is the most important here when we discuss networking. Now, strategic network basically focuses on the long-term vision that we have for ourselves. We have for the organizations that we work. And this is that long-term vision. We define who are the people now that we have to network with in order to make sure that we are able to achieve the goals that we have set for ourselves.
So for what would be a good example here, Vishal, for people to know strategic networking? What would be a good
so one of the examples which comes to my mind is that if, let's say, somebody, so I can give my own example, that if I'm aspiring to, let's say, write a research paper on some of the topic,
sure.
one of the topics. Now, one of the network dimensions that I would look at is that I need to know people who have written research articles in the past.
Sure.
I need to understand subject matter experts on the theme that I'm going to pick up on this particular article. Then I need to know what are the different tools that I'm going to use in order to make the research more validated.
Okay.
So that opens up different dimensions for me, which is completely different than what I'm doing right now in my current organization.
Okay. So that means now once you know that, you're going to start identifying where do you get these networks? Where do you find them? So then it's the where, okay? Okay, Anisha. Is that, okay, no problem.
Anisha, are you able to hear us now properly?
So someone says my screen is stuck. Now that could be at your end. That's connectivity at your end if your screen is getting stuck. Because it's all right for many, we have a system working, two systems working alongside us who have also joined in as attendees, as panelists. So there is also working. Yeah. So that could be. Anisha, let us know if the voice is okay now. Yeah. If you just raise your hand if it's all right now. Okay.
So, okay. So if you look at the three words which are written in orange color on the right-hand side, it actually defines characteristics of the strategic networks. Now, in order for a strategic network to be viable, it has to be broad. Now, when I say broad, it has to expand horizontally and vertically for an individual. Horizontally means you need to know people outside the dimension that you are working at, outside the different functions that you operate in or your stakeholders operate in. When I talk about vertically, you should know people over and above you. So in an organization, you should know people who are people from, let's say, 0 to 4 years of experience, starting from, let's say, people who are engineers, senior engineers, moving up the ranks to the top leadership in an organization. So that talks about the broadness of a strategic network. Connective basically is that you link up with those people and group which are not a part of your operational and personal.
So not a part of your operational and personal ecosystem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And dynamic is that basis your long-term vision and aspirations, you start achieving certain milestones. Now, when you're achieving these milestones, your network also has to grow in parallel.
You can close it to the mic.
Yeah. So that's what these three dimensions talks about in the strategic network ecosystem.
So you want to talk of location and all that? That's all covered here. Okay, brilliant. So let's move on. Any questions here? Okay, we will move on then.
Yeah.
All right. Who now? This is the ecosystem we talked about, and why should we network? Let's say who should we network? It is so common, and that is where we probably normally go wrong. Our biases stop us, or they do two things. They drive us to know people like us. And what we're saying here is that is essentially not the best thing to do, because we'll always know people like us, people in our domain, our industry. If others were to get value through us, there'll be people who are not from our network, and they're people who we call weak ties. So these are weak ties, which is in our relationship with people that we don't know that well or that we don't see very often. Those are the weak ties. So the whole perception here, the whole concept here is, So Rajendra, sorry for the interruption. I think Rajendra, if you've seen the previous slide, there could be connectivity issues at your end. Yeah. All those who are seeing the previous slide can tell us. We might then know where the issue is. But let's move on. I think it's at your end, Rajendra. If you want to refresh your screen, I don't know if that works. Give me a second. Okay, Gagan. All right. Okay. So gentlemen, just have a look at your connection.
All the other computers at our end. All the other computers at our end are working fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So moving on. So convenience networks are not the most effective, is what you're saying. Move away from convenience. This requires a bit of work, and we're going to come to that. Yeah. Is that anything else, Vishal?
So I think just like me and convenience network also talks about homogeneity and heterogeneity in a network. We normally tend to align with those people whom we feel more comfortable to talk to, rather than going to a person who maybe has a more stalking personality than us. We stop ourselves because maybe we don't align.
All right. Okay, sorry about that. There was a bit of a hold up here. We are back on. I hope you can see our screens. Okay, we were also, Rajendra, and we were also trying to resolve an issue just in case it was at our end. So we did a bit of a refresh. Working now. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So we just resolved something at our end as well. Just thought it could be, but if it's resolved, it's fine. Okay, let's go. Uh,
Yeah.
how
Should you?
should you network? Networking is a leader's most essential skill. We believe that networking is a process and it needs effective planning and execution for success. And by effective use of the simple planner, leaders can see a visible. Now, what we're really going to do here is, this is a very validated, a very powerful tool to network, right? It's called the NAP tool. We're going to share that with you. We will take you through the NAP tool with examples. Yeah. So this is what the NAP tool is. It has 5 steps to effective networking. Focus, target, define, align, reach. Now, what does focus mean? When you talk of networking, the focus stage, like I think Vishal just shared with you, if it was strategic networking, if it's a strategic piece and not in your personal or work ecosystem, it's about writing down your aim. What is your aim for the next 2, 3, 4 years? Where are you really headed? Where do you want to be? Yeah, that's the focus that you require. So you have goals and then you have sub goals. We're going to come to that. Target is identifying and prioritizing your most important enablers. So for example, you might be getting, or you pitched for an account. Say you all have pitched for an account, which is not in the regular space that you work with or your skill sets are. So the capability of Erisant, let's say, lies in certain skills, maybe niche skills as well, but now you're getting an account which is very different from what you do. So you require some niche skills. You know that's going to happen. You might know that's going to happen 6 months down the line. What do you feel? The first piece would be, okay, what do you want? That's the focus. What is your goal here? Goal maybe to get a lot of talent in that area. And you know there's a paucity of talent. You know there's less supply of that niche talent. You get a lot of data scientists, all right, but if you look at AI experts, and if you look at blockchain experts, what have you, there are few out there, and there's some software engineers as well that are very few. Those are niche skills. What you then do is you look for enablers. Who are these people who can introduce you to these guys? Who are these people who can support you in getting closer or getting or probably narrowing your chances of broadening your chances of success to get these guys? Those are the enablers who can help you in your journey to achieve what you want to achieve. That's your network. Not the person per se, not the skill or the talent that you're looking for. It's not that person. It's who enables you. That's what a network does. They are enablers. Yeah. Then you define the currency you believe you have. Okay, what is currency? Currency here, ladies and gentlemen, is the value you get. What is the value you get? What is so attractive in you? What is that attracts the other? What is so it's all about value, your skill sets, your knowledge, your experience that the other can leverage. Yeah. So you got to define that because it's a common advantage process network. Then you align. This section really serves as a checkpoint to fully recognize and better align the resources you may have. I think when we go through the tool, as of now, you really understand this, and then the reach. So let's get on with the tool. Okay. So Vishal, do you want to sort of take them through this tool? Or
sure. So let me just introduce them to the first element of the tool, which is the focus. Now, we have actually given here an example of a person who has a professional goal that the person wants to be known amongst the CTO community across the globe. Now, this is the primary goal of the individual that he's focusing on, as we also call it as a lag indicator for an individual. Now, in order to achieve or reach the lag indicator, you obviously need to define what are the lead indicators which will actually take you finally to the lag indicator. So, which we also call as sub-goals over here. Now, sub-goals that an individual who wants to be known amongst the CTO community defines as that this person has to be a part of certain groups, has to be present in certain events, certain conferences, certain discussion areas, certain, groups and forums wherein he can present the sort of knowledge that he brings on the table for them.
Or where CTOs are present. Or where CTOs are present as well, right? Then the enablers, yeah. So enablers are people who can advise him as well, or people who can connect him to CTOs, yeah. So these are the enablers as we discuss. Measures, what would be the measures here that yes, you are achieving your goal, that yes, now you're known, you're becoming known in the community. You got to put the measure in. Here it is when people start requesting you to come as a speaker, or people start seeking advice from you, or inviting you for events. Those are the measures, yeah. And you could put a timeline there. Do you want to be known with this kind of a measure in 6 months, 10 months, what have you, yeah? Target.
So target are basically the people that you have identified who are going to help you and support you, who will act as enablers for you during this journey that you have identified for the next 6 months, 7 months, 10 months, what have you. So here, if you look at the grid, what we are talking about, that you have named these enablers, or you have identified those people who are going to support you. Which function do they belong to? And I'm straight away jumping to column number 6, which talks about whether these people, they are internal to the ecosystem that you're operating right now, or they are partners to you from the organization's perspective, or they are your clients. And then you define what is the impact these people have on the goals that you have identified for yourself, and what is the current relationship or rapport or trust that you already have with these people. You rate them on these different parameters, and you also define what is the priority these people have in order to exchange the value or the currency that we are talking about. And we finally reach a weighted score, and we identify who are the right people with us, who are going to support us in our journey.
Brilliant. Okay. We have someone on chat. Let me see. Okay. All right. Okay. So these enablers, again, Deepa, Piyush, Sachin, Sudhir are enablers. How do we now, that's defined. We define the currency. Do you remember if you look at the model? If you look at the model, let me take you back to the model here. Define the currency you believe you have that will be useful in attracting your prioritized target. So what is useful that will attract them? So this is what we have. So let's talk of professional. Say you're bringing a lot of skills and maybe power in the personal side, or you're bringing, proposed area could be knowledge and network. So you're looking at someone who's networked, and maybe you are very networked. So that's the currency, that's your value. Always add, okay, enablers on priority, put the enablers, and proposed area. What is the value you bring? Yeah. Or also both ways, what is the value you are seeking? What is the value you are seeking? Define it. Yeah. Okay.
So I think it's very important for the participants to also understand the thought process, the needs of the enablers as well.
Sure.
Because that's the way they are going to trade the currency or the value that they bring on the table.
Sure, absolutely. That's why it's a common advantage thing.
Yeah.
You're very right. So alignment is, again, what are the existing resources? So that's the focus area. A key question would be, what resources already exist that you can tap? So from your now you come into your localized and personal network. Okay, who are these people you know? From your immediate contacts, or they could be your alumni. So if you're from IIT or IIMs or any other institute, you know, are you a member of the alumni group? Are these people that you could easily tap into? So it's like, you know, who are these people who already exist? Who can you tap into? Then, of course, focus would be on technology. What technology resources will you employ to help you maintain contact? So you know what, do you use, obviously we use the internet, we use things like LinkedIn, we use many other things. How do you remain in contact with these people? What resources will you use to stay current on you now? This is a big one. What resources will you use to stay current on news activities at your contacts, companies, organizations? So that is where LinkedIn and all of that is so important. You use blogs, you do articles, and these people might read. You go to discussions where these people are present. That's how you build your own credibility. Yeah. And how will you measure relationship state progress and all of that? Go to people, focus on people then. How will you, consider your top 5 ambassadors, develop a relationship? So who are these people going to be your top ambassadors? How are you going to develop relationships with them? So that depends on your goal. So it's important to highlight for me that the key questions, and this is an example only. The focus is on people, how your ambassadors depends on your context. You may not need these, right? So this is just an example, yeah? And events and forums. Which events and forums are best suited to build the kind of relationship we were trying to build? So if that's again a question you want to answer, yeah? So the focus is on existing resources, technology you will use, people out there, and events and forums. That's the key. That's how you align, and you have a plan for each one of these. These are outreach ideas, dinners, thought leadership articles, interviews, third-party introductions, events. These are outreach ideas. More ideas. How do you connect with people? Well, you could call them to wish them a happy birthday. You could call to congratulate them. So you could email them. You could send notes to them, personal cards, gifts. Again, depending on the context. We're going to share, of course, these slides with you. The ideas that we have here to reach these people are huge. They are well thought out ideas, very deployable, very realistic. And this is what people normally do. Yeah. So where should you network?
I think we are at the last question.
Yeah. So I like to do a bit of a Q&A. Is that a Q&A? Okay, we can do a chat here.
As well.
Let's chat. So here's a question. Please send us your responses. Where should you network? What are the various places one can network and should network? Over to you. Let's take a minute. Send in your responses, ladies and gentlemen. Go for it. Where should you network? And you will be talking from your context.
So till the time we receive responses from the participants, which was the latest event that you had been to where you found it pretty interesting networking with people?
Recent event.
Any conference that you have attended recently?
So really, Vishal, I've not attended any recent conferences, but what I can tell you, this is the fascinating part. So I network on my flights as well.
Okay, awesome.
I always strike up a conversation. Okay, the recent one was I was returning from Bangalore, and I was sitting with 2 ladies. Normally I'm not that lucky, so I was fortunate. I was traveling by myself. There were 2 ladies who were sitting beside me, and you know what? They were really chatting with each other. And I was reading a book. Called Insights. I just got a copy of that book very recently. I was reading the book. Along the way, they started chatting. They struck a conversation. And from the conversation, they were so close. Not that I was eavesdropping, not that I was trying hard to listen to them. They were quite loud. And we're going to come back to your piece. I'm just going to narrate this little story of networking. So this lady who was sitting in the middle suddenly asked me a question that, okay, how do you think is this book? And the book's name was Insights. I said, well, it's really insightful. So we started with that. There was a bit of a laughter. And then we got to know more about each other through that. I wouldn't believe that from her conversations, she was a yogi. She had really left the corporate world for many, many years. She's a yoga instructor. She goes to the mountain. She spends a lot of time in Dharamsala, other places in Himachal, taking classes and all of that. So I heard all of that as well when she was narrating to the other lady. To my disbelief, that's the fascinating part. That's how we shouldn't judge and be biased. The kind of contacts and the names that she took and the contacts she still has in the corporate, because many out there go and use her as an instructor. They go for her classes. I was amazed that she's putting me on to 2 people. She's not as yet took my number. She's putting me on to 2 large organizations. One, she heard what I do. It really interested her, intrigued her. And here I am with 2 people, prospective, clients, prospective people we can probably work with, and that too can become huge once we start work with them. So that's just a small example of being open, not to judge. I was amazed that she had so many contacts. Yeah. So, okay, what's the results like? So what do people say?
So people have shared a couple of examples like conferences, events, social media.
Yeah, conferences, marketing. Social media, gym. That's a very good place. What's PTM? What's PT?
That's, I guess,
sorry, what's PTM? Parents teachers meeting. Okay, yeah? PTM. Okay. Yes. How many of us really leverage PTMs? That's a very good place to network. Yeah.
So I think we have consolidated certain places. Yeah. We're going to show it to the participants.
Okay.
Yeah, so here we are. So what we have done here is we have divided the places where you can network into offline and online. Online, I think most of us, we are aware of LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, blogging. Mm-hmm. A lot of online communities as well, where people can go in and they can share their thoughts.
Yeah.
Offline, of course, office, conferences, religious events, gyms, hobby clubs, coffee shops, retreats. So ideally, I must say there is no end. You can network anywhere you want. So flights, as you said, that's a very fascinating place. Airports.
Oh, fantastic. It's just that you have to be open, strike a conversation, be confident, and yes, make sure your social media profiles are updated with interesting material out there. That's the first thing people do these days. They in a flash go to social media and they suss you out like that. Yeah. So is that what that's what we have today, I guess.
That's right.
And
we'll just
quick tips. Let's sum it up. Quick tips for networking. Effective building networks, effective networking. Engage in activities both inside and outside your organization. Engage in town halls, engage in forums. Those are all inside activities. And outside your organization, conferences, events. There's so many events that happen. Okay, not just conferences and events. Events like they could be a singing night. They could be a Sufi night. They could be plays, dramas. They are places where there's people of your kind, people that could really help you. People can, so there's huge opportunities out there. Connect through people you already know that we've talked about. Focus and develop value you bring to your network. Think about it. Today, if you all go back and reflect, at least it's a reflection point. What is the value you really bring? You know what will really come out of it? What will come out of it? Your USP. Do you even have a USP? What is your competitive advantage? At least you'll get a sense whether you have it, whether you don't have it, or what can you do about it. So to reflect is always good. Yeah. Focus on learning, identify common interests, find a higher purpose. Find a higher purpose. How many of you want to talk about find a higher purpose? I'm sure all of you out there, including me here, I'm sure including Vishal, this is a topic we'd like to go on and on and on about, yeah, to find a higher purpose. So thank you for being with us. I think I would want to open it up for questions that we can answer. Let's take about 5 or 10 minutes. Happy to answer your questions, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting to answer your questions. Any clarifications, any comments, something you want to talk more about? Mm-hmm.
Are people typing right now?
Okay, let's
just
see.
Check the chat box.
Okay. All right. So, we don't have many questions, which is all right. It tells us that you've either understood and you've been engaged. Any situational videos, Rajendra? What do you really mean by that? What do you mean by situational videos? If you could just expand, please, and we will certainly send you some resource. Okay, Rajendra, we will just make you a panelist so you can probably elaborate. Yeah. Okay, Rajendra, you can talk now. So, Rajendra, if you like, you can talk. Okay, Rajendra. Yeah. I'll do it. Unmute.
Unmute him. Unmute from it. No, yeah.
Yeah. So Rajendra, go. We can hear you.
Just trying to gather some videos which can help in getting some idea about any situational scenario where networking can be initiated.
Okay. So we'll have to really sort of reflect on what you're saying. Situational video where networking can be. What was it that you said? What was the last?
Initiated.
Initiated. So I'm not sure of a video where it could be initiated. I think what we could do is, yes, maybe a video on telling you some more about networking. Yes, maybe there is videos. Of course, there are. We can probably share links, which we will, of some teachings or a lecture or a sort of demo on networking and some of the skills. Yes, we could do that. That might help. Yeah, Rajendra.
Rajendra, we can also share with all the participants. So there's a very famous article on how do you build your networks by Brian Uzi. So let's send that link to Anisha, and Anisha can share with all the participants. You can go through that article, and that will give you a lot of tips as well. Maybe it solves some of the concerns or the videos that you're talking about. It can help you take you to certain links, which can help you understand more about networking.
Sure. And Marco, you have a question. Any practical suggestions to improve our natural inclination to networking? Yes. You know, the suggestion even to help our talent to grow up as executives. Yes. Any suggestion to improve our natural inclination to networking? Yes. Experiment. Be open to meeting new people. Be open to shake hands with somebody who's on your list and you've never met before. Be open to introduce yourself. These are some very good places to very good ways to really improve that natural instinct that you call. Yeah. So does that help, Marco? And even to help you have an extended question, Marco, which says even to help our talents to grow up as execs. I'm not sure I understand that part of it.
Should we make him talk? Shall we make him talk?
Yeah.
Let's promote him as a...
You can go Rajendra back.
Yeah. Let's look at
Marco, you could probably...
Yeah, we promoted Marco.
You're not. Let me do it. Can I do? Sorry, I'll just do it.
Okay.
Unmute?
Yeah.
You don't need to do that to my system. Yeah. Go, Marco. You've been connection. Yeah.
I think Marco has
dropped. Okay, yes. Marco's dropped. So, okay, let's move on. Anyone else? So we have these questions. Just want to check on the names of the participants. Anybody else on the call other than names that are mentioned? No, I don't know. Anisha, we have the list here. We can always pass you the list. We have all the people who attended anyways. We will give you the list. We share the list because we have access to that. Yeah, we will shoot a mail off to you.
Yeah, by the way, I was just still in mute. Thanks again. And I think you answered my...
All right, Marco. Okay. Marco, nice chatting with you. Nice to hear your voice again. I remember we chatted with you last time as well. You were very participative. And yeah, I trust we were able to answer your question.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Indeed. All right. Okay, then thank you very much. And it was again a pleasure to do this. It was a delight. And once again, sorry for some of the technical glitches which we try our best to avoid or try our best not to happen. Yeah? Yet there is so much in our control, and then there is so much that is not in our control. So with that, we will leave you. You have a great weekend, and God bless you all.
Thank you all. Thanks a lot, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
It's just stressful, I think, more than anything.